don't know me and my work, I'm John Meese. Obviously there's some element of you're here, so you must know me to some extent. But I'll just share real quick. I have a program that's called Sold Out Coach Club, and so Bo went to this program, and we're going to talk a little bit about today about what he did to actually create a sold out group coaching program because that's the main focus of what we do. But in that program, what we do is we focus on creating a group coaching program by itself for you to be able to launch that, and then fill your founding member program by inviting your target clients to enroll. And we'll break down exactly how Bo did this, and then build a repeatable sold out system to earn at least $10,000 per month, group coaching 90 minutes per week. Typically, we do this by following a 7-step playbook. So I'll give a high level overview, but I'm sure we'll come back to this, Bo, kind of as we talk through what you've done, which is we always start by finding your target client bullseye. And then we go to step 2, craft your 10x promise offer. Step 3, send compelling hand raisers. Step 4, serve to sell with one free coaching call. And then step 5, fill your founding member cohort, which is a lot what we're talking about today. It's getting to that point where you've got a sold out cohort of your program. It's up and live. And then step 6, celebrate clients to get more clients. And then ultimately step 7 to scale your sold out coaching business. So this is a program that we run several times a year. So we have I think this year actually, yeah, this year we have 5 different groups. One's already kind of come and gone. We've got another group that's about to get started that's got about 50% sold out right now. And so if this is something that you're interested in, um, we don't need to look at that right now. But it's something you're interested in, I would just encourage you to that if you want to earn yourself $10,000 per month, group coach 90 minutes per week, then all it takes is $1,000 deposit to join and get started. But actually, before you even do that, you can't pay. You can't click this button right now. What you would need to do is actually talk to me. And so the way you do that is I'll just give this. This is my direct scheduling link. You just go to sellyoursmarts.co/schedule. Normally, this isn't like publicly available, but if you're here tuning into this Q&A, I'm going to assume that you're good people and give you that. And so you go in here, schedule a call with me one-on-one. We can talk and see, what I want to learn more about your goals to see if or how I can help and if Sold Out Coach Club might be the right answer for you. So that just sets the stage a little bit for us, Bo, in terms of talking about this kind of the 7-step process. So I want to hear from you kind of what you did, right? So maybe let's start with the results, right? So let's start with right now. So far, kind of where are you at right now with your group coaching program?
Sure. So, um, I took something that I was already doing for free because I'm in the lending business. I do business loans and I also am a franchise consultant. I help people find and fund their ideal business. So part of the pain in that is that there's a lot of tire kickers out there. So wouldn't it be great if you could get people to pay you 2 grand up front and then learn from you over the next 7 or 8 weeks, depending on how long your cohort is? So I had found John's group and I was like, wow, this is a perfect fit, right? And so I signed up to go through his cohort because I always look at anything I invest in, will I get an ROI or a return on investment or will I get a return on time? And if yes, then I invest into those types of programs. So John's program was a no-brainer for me. And I went through the cohort and I learned and learning is great, but taking action is the thing that really moves the needle. So I never really sold anything up front. So now I'm selling people to come in the cohort. So you have to understand, like, if you're not like used to it, and then you take all the tools and templates that John's already has done for you, like the hand raisers, and then you kind of position them for your brand, a really strong 10x promise. And before you know it, voila, you a little bit nervous when you release it because you're like, will people buy it? I'm like scared. And of course, you sell out your cohort. You get the first 5 to join your first cohort, and then you take people through. And you remember, it's not like it doesn't have to be like perfect because you're going to change it. The second cohort's going to be a little bit different. But anyways, I did my cohort, worked really well. And my basically, when help people invest in a franchise, I get a big fat fee at the end if they successfully invest in a business.
Yeah.
So the 2 grand up front for the 5 was great, but my whole thing was I want the back end. And so
Hmm.
what I told people was if you go through my cohort and you successfully invest in a business through myself or my team, within 9 months of graduating the cohort, you get credited back to $2,000.
Okay.
And
Interesting. That's a really
yeah,
fascinating guarantee. So it's sort of like if you invest in the next level, by this case, buying a franchise, then they get the $2,000 back, which creates an incentive for them to take action.
100%. And so
Yeah.
I already knew the first, like when I interviewed the people. I already said, okay, this person's going to be the first one that actually invests in a business. And sure enough, she did. She's
That's
now a
awesome.
successful business owner. We're still working with some of the other candidates, but essentially, um, our gross revenue so far is 58,000 from our first cohort. So
Amazing.
not too
Amazing.
shabby.
No. So that's with 5 clients at $2,000, right? Is how you
Yeah,
started?
right.
Amazing. Yeah.
But there's
So I
more.
love that. Yeah, but there's more. Yeah. So is the rest of the gap between the 5 and 2,000, is the rest of that gap really just the franchise commission that you get?
Yes.
Okay, gotcha. Now I know this is fascinating. So this is something you've been, just to make sure this is clear for everybody. So you've been in business for a while, where as both a loan officer yourself, and then also for help people pick and choose which franchise to buy into, right? And so like, so I know you and I talked before when we first met. I'm like, wait a minute, you're doing all the coaching for free. But then the at the back end, you're getting paid well for if they get an SBA loan, you get some payment there. And then if they use that to finance a franchise, then that franchise itself, you get you said like a big fat payday for referring them to that franchise. So now, in theory, you could triple dip, right? I mean, you get paid up front, you get paid if they pick the franchise, and you also get paid if they finance the loan, right?
100%. Three ways
Yeah,
right there.
that's great.
And then you can bolt on more as you go because you have. So, yeah, I think if you have a service or product of value, like Cohort's probably the best business model I've ever seen, especially, in my world, it eliminates the tire kickers from the action takers. And that's the simplest way to define why you should have a cohort.
I'm really glad we got that on camera. That's a great picture for why you should have a cohort. I love that. I am curious, like, so tell us more about that. What is the difference, right? So, because there's obviously you've still made money off of franchises before, and that's the biggest amount of money you made so far from this cohort. So you could have made some money by just coaching people for free to pick a franchise and buy into it. But what was the difference in working with people who went to the group program versus working with people, who haven't done that?
Right. So the difference is, sorry if you guys hear my crying 2-year-old, but the
I
difference
don't. I
is,
don't.
okay, good. The
Yeah.
difference is that people, well, one is you have a community. So when we're meeting every Wednesday for 90 minutes or whatever we met for 8 weeks, the first cohort was 8 weeks. I'm condensing it down to 7 weeks.
Okay.
You have a whole team there, right? You have other people in the same category you are. They all want to own a business. So it creates a sense of community and it creates it gamifies it as well, meaning like people were talking about this franchise and that franchise and owning a vending business and this and going through the process. So it actually stirred more emotion, which basically like flamed people's entrepreneurial spirit. So it helps you, right? It helps you through the sales process because people become friends, people call each other after, and that is important. The community really helped versus me meeting with somebody one on one. Um, there's no structure, there's no curriculum. When they came in, there was structure, there was curriculum, there's others in the community, and so they were all going for the moving in the right direction. So that's why I was like, the cohort model to me is like it's the surefire way of seeing if people are action takers, right? And obviously not everybody in a cohort that comes through my cohort is going to buy a business, but at least they've said, "Hey, I'm going to put $2,000 on the line here because I want to do this and I want to take action." So that is
Yeah.
far better than spending 5 months or 3 months with somebody and they at the end of it they say, "Look, I don't want to do anything. I'm just going to stay," which is fine, but the cohort model to me makes a lot of sense. And I invested in your cohort because I was like, I wanted to learn,
Hmm.
and it's a fast track of learning something, and you're really investing in a transformation that you'll actually take action. So that's the difference of why a cohort to me makes sense and why I love the cohort model. And just the cohort alone I believe has the potential for me to be a 7-figure revenue stream per year, right? Ultimately,
Yeah.
and what I
Well,
see
let's
with,
talk about
yeah,
that. Tell me
yeah.
where you see where this going. I'd love to hear kind of where you see this going next.
So I see this going in many ways. I mean, I'm a lifetime learner, so I have joined other cohorts for things I wanted to invest in and get better at. And I wanted to fast track. Really, cohort is a fast track to like whatever you want.
Hmm.
Like, sure,
Hmm.
could I try and do a cohort on my own? Yeah, I could, but like, am I better off investing a little bit of money to get a huge result that I can repeat over and over again? Right? If I do four cohorts a year and I bring it from 5 members to 10 or 15, and then I multiply, then every quarter, think about how much potential revenue you can have. And then
Wow.
then you build in systemized
Yeah.
processes because at some point you get too big, and then I bring on another franchise coach, right? And then they help the candidates. And then I just focus on growing the cohort. So the cohort is an ecosystem, in my opinion, that can grow as large as you want. And I like that. Then your time is you know when you need to show up.
Yeah.
It's not chaotic. You're like, I'm here. And then I offered, I think 30-minute coaching sessions. I was going to coach people anyway, so it wasn't
Yeah.
really like I want people to be serious about investing in a business.
Oh, that's great. I love that what you've done is you've turned, there's this, idea of turning a cost center into a profit center, right? So you've identified this cost center in your business has been, you spend a lot of time with people before they ever make a decision, right? About are they going to buy a franchise and then are they going to finance that, which up until now was the two ways you got paid, right? And so it's a huge cost center in terms of time and money of spending on other people. And you've now turned that into a profit center where you're getting paid up front. So not only are you getting paid for that, so it's a profit center, but also now they're more likely to take action. You add an extra incentive. They get basically like a $2,000 bonus if they take action, right? Because they get that back. And then even if they don't, it's a profit center, right? So you can sustain that. And so I think that's really genius. I want to revisit the 7 steps and kind of just walk through with your perspective in terms of how each of these apply to what you've done. So let's start here by looking at and talking about step one, right? So find your target client bullseye. So going into this, there's a lot of stuff that you can do in terms of, like how you help people. I'm curious when you were thinking about the group coaching program, how did you make the decision about who your target client bullseye was?
I think where we really honed in on was the pain of W-2 employees, the corporate tech person, the medical salesperson. Like, great, they have great income, but the problem is, and the problem with most W-2 employees is they don't own anything, right? So the minute they stop
Hmm.
working, they have no money coming in versus you own a business. So the pain, I think we honed in well
Yeah,
on that ecosystem of W-2, high paid W-2, people that were like, 200, 300, 400 grand a year, but they're unsatisfied because they're not building any legacy. So that's where I
yeah.
really honed in on that part.
Excellent. Okay, so then that's a natural connection then to then what are you promising them, right? So
Yeah.
what is the promise of your program?
Essentially, own a proven business that replaces your W-2 income without starting from scratch. Essentially,
Love
right?
it.
Like that's
Yeah.
basically the promise that they get, and we give them a clear path, and we can show them how to do it with little money because we're financing 80 to 90% with an SBA loan. So my secondary service comes in very well because I can analyze and say this is kind of the range that we should be looking at these types of franchises because they're easier to finance or whatever. So it's like a natural fit. So it's
That's
it's
great.
it's basically the 10x promise to me is like it's a hand raiser essentially for what people are looking for. Yes, I want to replace my W-2 income without having to start from scratch. And that's as
Yeah.
simple as it is, and that's clear. And I think it needs to be clear and defined. And you do a great job in your sessions helping us
Thank
build
you.
our promise.
No, I love that because it sounds so simple to hear you say it now. You're like, well, of course, this is what I do. But of course, I also remember those conversations early on of like, well, it's buy a franchise. It's like, well, like then figuring out like what is it, what else is it, right? And so I love how clear and confident you've got that down in terms of how you describe what the promise is. And then, as you said, the goal there is that that's a natural segue into step three. This of the getting people to raise their hand. So when you got to this step, I mean, so typically this is the first step where we're actually presenting an invitation to an audience of some kind. So I'm curious to sell out your first group. How did you do this? Did you send an email to a list? Did you post these on social media? Like, how did you actually introduce this offer to the market?
So, as you're growing, anybody's growing, I think there's a couple components you want. You want to have everybody on a list, an email list. If you don't have one now, you want to start one, right? So I use that guy right there, his newsletter, Kit. I use Kit.
Oh yeah, yeah. There's Nathan on the,
So I would send
slide right there.
out, I would use
Yeah.
your hand raisers. I would do hand raisers on social media. I would send out emails to my list through my newsletter. And then I also, because I'm a webinar person too, I would do some small webinars, or kind of Q&A type of webinars.
And did you
And
did you do that for this cohort? Did you do like a live webinar or Q&A?
I did one, yeah, yeah. And
Great.
so collectively, through all of that, I was able to fill, I had probably out of the 5 seats, I would do serve calls, but I think I named them clarity calls.
That's fine. Yeah.
I changed it from serve to clarity. I don't know why, but I did. And I had
That's fine.
probably,
I should say, I don't usually call them serve calls to clients, right?
yeah.
Like internally, that's what we call that methodology, right? But if I schedule a serve call with a random person, they're like, a what? Like, so that's fine. Yeah. You can call whatever you want.
So
But yeah, you remember how many you had?
I probably had, I could add more, but I probably had 12 or 13.
Great.
And then five were I think everybody wanted to do it, but I feel like you weed out the ones that $2,000 is going to be, too much for them at the time. And
Yeah.
we don't, because we're buying businesses, we want people that can, they have some liquidity. And so it's some of
Right.
them, I had one lady that actually started to cry on the call because she wanted to do it, but she didn't have the money. I felt really bad.
Oh man.
And I would have probably worked something out. Like I don't I'm not charging them. My intent's not the money up front for me personally because I'm making the
Yeah.
back end, but it's the commitment. So I should have probably just offered her something she could afford, but she wouldn't have been able to afford a business. So
Well, but I was gonna say that would have been done a disservice, right? Because at the end
right.
of the day, it's like you're teaching people to buy a business, and so there has to be if they can't find $2,000 to join the coaching program, they're probably not going to find. I mean, what are we typically expecting out of pocket to pay for a franchise on the other side of this? I know there's a huge range.
At minimum, with 90% financing, like I do a lot of vending businesses where I call it a gateway business where they're not quite ready. Part of my coaching is taking them through a transition plan. And some people just quite honestly aren't ready to go full time into quit their
Yeah.
W-2. So I do like a lot of businesses that could be run semi-absentee or semi-involved. So that could be vending, and I get people in the vending for 12 to $14,000 out of pocket.
Okay.
And you
Like
can
by that,
definitely
you mean like having vending machines in like their area, or
Yeah, yeah. So it's not a franchise. It's called a business opportunity, and so they start with 10 machines. It's like 100 grand. I financed 90,000 with an SBA loan, 90%, and it gets them in the door. So sometimes I get people
yeah.
into a gateway, and then I get them into a big franchise after that. Get their feet wet. Often people that have children, I tell them, look, do you want a good tax write-off? Section 179, bonus depreciation, the machines, 100 grand of machines, 90,000 finance. You put down 10, you get $100,000 give or take write-off for that year if you're a high paid,
Hmm.
self-employed or whatever, or W-2. And then they can teach their children how to P&Ls and this and that.
Well,
So
and how to restock the vending machines, right?
yeah, yeah. So you like I always thought, how cool would it be if you taught your children in high school to be entrepreneurs and
Yeah.
you built $5,000 or $8,000 of recurring revenue, and then they could then get out of high school and say, okay, I'm just going to go straight into owning more
That's cool.
businesses. So that could be another cohort, by the way. Light bulb moment. Le-
Well, I'm also thinking about, I don't know if you know, do you know Jeremy Pryor by any chance? I don't know, think you've crossed paths in the Sold Out Coach Club community.
it sounds familiar. What's his background?
Well, I just did a Q&A with him recently because he owns his program is called Family Inc. and it helps families learn how to start their own family business. We should definitely connect you as like a resource partner for them because they create entrepreneurs. I mean, at this point they've helped a couple hundred families start family businesses and like that's their focus. And so like some of their stuff is like starting like so some of their clients have started like a pickleball construction company. It's like making pickleball courts for people and like things like that. So huge range of businesses though. That's just one example that comes to mind. But I want to share, I don't know, by the way, Bo, did you know that my first business was a vending machine business? Did I tell you that?
No, I did not know that. Yeah.
Yeah. So when I was about 9, maybe 10 years old, I think I was 10 years old, at our church, I found in the basement this old quarter machine that nobody was using. And I asked around and they said, oh, yeah, somebody used to put candy in that for Sunday afternoon. And I was like, can I do that at coffee hour? And so I got permission to do it. And so, like any young entrepreneur, I was excited. I went around and I got three of them. I got my brother and two other friends to become business partners. And so there were four of us that were all business partners at church and we would go to Kroger or Walmart, get our parents to take us, and I would buy like for $1, you could buy one of those. strips that had that had individual wrapped candies in it. Like, you can buy like a Snickers or like 100 grand, and it would have 10 of these individual, like just like pocket size, bite size candies in them. So I was like, hey, that's 10 cents per candy. I could do the math here, right? $1 divided by 10 cents per candy. Okay. And then we put them in the machine, and they were all in this like spiral bound thing where you'd stick a quarter in, you twist it and twist it, twist it, and the candy would come out. So that's 25 cents is what we would make per candy bar. And our cost of goods, this is what I learned about cost of goods. The cost of goods was 10 cents per candy bar. Um, and then that part I think might have been okay, but then two things happened. First of all, I learned about the problem with business partnerships is that I was the one in charge of buying the candy and stocking the candy machine. The only thing we ever did together as business partners is once a month we would use our key to open up the candy machine, pull out all of the money, the quarters, plus a few candy bars, and eat the candy bars while we counted the quarters, and then we split. We took enough quarters to buy a new inventory, and then the rest of the quarters we split four ways for some reason. So we'd all walk away with like basically just free candy, which is not a bad thing as like a 10-year-old, to have that. Um, but then the second thing I learned about was supply chain risk. Was Walmart or no, it was Kroger. Kroger raised the price on those candy bar strips to like $1.50, and all of a sudden it's like our margins got thinner. And so pretty quickly over time the business ended up kind of, I don't know, I actually don't know what happened to the machine, but eventually we just stopped stocking it. But we would sell it, after church people come over and grab a candy. Um, so vending machine was my first business when I was a kid. Where I learned a lot about cost of goods and supply chain risks and business partnerships and all kinds of good stuff.
Awesome. Yeah,
Yeah.
it's a good place to start. So I like the
Yeah.
your example of the other gentleman because I do think there's an opportunity because and that's the other beautiful thing about joining cohorts is that you meet really interesting people. So like,
Yeah.
you're going to get a lot more value. You're going to get a lot of value because you're going to learn a new framework. For example, when I went through John's program, I was immediately implemented it and it worked. And
Mm,
I was like, okay, I want you break it down too, so it's like not overwhelming. Because a lot of times people just they'll take a
thank you.
course, they'll take a cohort, and they don't
Yeah.
implement. Like if you follow the system and actually do it, if you have a viable coaching program, you're going to be successful. It's just you have to do the work and you have to do your
Yeah.
hand raisers and stuff. That's pretty.
100%.
Yeah.
Yeah. So then let's talk about then. So step five, you filter founding member cohort. So you sold out at those five spots. And then you led that group. And then what was the experience of people going through the group? Because you said it was 8 weeks, right? And so you finished that now. And so what was kind of the experience for you as the coach? And then I'm just curious if you had any other feedback from people going through the group, through the program you could share.
Yeah, I mean, the feedback was really good. I think the one thing I didn't do the best, I probably should have screened a couple of them a little bit harder for meaning
Mm,
they weren't really in the financial position to be able to invest in a business.
okay.
So going forward, I would screen them better on my clarity calls. But anyway, that was the one thing I will do better next time. But I had really positive feedback, and I think it's quite apparent the action takers that like will perform in
Hmm.
because like in franchising, we always talk about quartiles, like because we can look at the how other franchise units are operating on we can see, there's always 25% that's the top quartile of franchise owners. Let's say they have 100 franchise units throughout the United States.
Yeah.
Why is there 25% on the top quartile and they're making the most money? Well, in anything you do, you want to be in the top quartile. So meaning
Yeah.
if I go through John's cohort, I don't want to be on the bottom quartile. I want to be an overachiever, right? And so it's the
Yeah.
same thing in franchising. So it's how do you take somebody's system and implement it for you? So like not everything John does is exactly what I did, but the framework, I took it, I was a good student, I implemented
Yeah.
it, and that's why I was successful. So then I just keep replicate it, right? And then you make small cohort number two, you tweak it a little bit and
Hmm.
so don't be a perfectionist because that's the one thing people are like, I gotta have my course perfect because it's gonna flow, it's gonna happen
Yeah.
naturally, and then you fine tune and you fine tune and you fine tune and you're building a bigger list and a bigger list and a bigger list. Then it's easier and easier to get people into your cohort.
That's good. So I love it. Could you actually you mentioned like the fact that you took the playbook but then you implement it kind of your own way. I'm curious, do you have anything you could show us in terms of I'd love to see anything you used in the sales process that might be useful just to kind of show under the hood like what worked, because that's always useful. It takes it out of theory into reality.
Sure. And I think like I didn't have it dialed in, and I'm still dialing it in, but
Yeah,
I
you
always
didn't
want
have.
to I want to send people somewhere like when I start doing hand raisers that they can see and they can go to. So like this isn't done, but it's good enough. So this is my program business ownership launch, right? I shot a video. I, own
Oh,
own
cool.
this is kind of it, and then join the next cohort, and then they can, depending, I just change that button out where they can sign up for a discovery call, or I call it a clarity call. So,
Hmm.
very simple to do. And then like I didn't have this video done early on, but then I went into a studio. I'll show you a second of it just so you get an
Oh, and
idea.
it's got its own domain, business ownership launch, right?
Yeah.
Most
So
people don't realize this, but the biggest threat to their future isn't losing their job, it's staying in a job that keeps them stuck. And if you're a high achiever, this hits even harder
so
because deep down, you know
I
you're
just
capable of more than trading time for a
so
That's
that's like
cool.
cinema. You don't even need to do that. Like you don't even have to have a website. But the point is that
Yeah,
I already have a team that can throw things up like this pretty easily. So
that's
now on
cool.
future cohorts, right? Like I'm gonna be just sending people there. Then they can. So my ecosystem is hand raiser to maybe here to book a discovery call, and then eventually this will be to a Stripe link where they can just pay to join the. But I always want to do a clarity call first, anyways, because like we talk about, we want
Yeah,
people. You want to get the right mix of people, and I buy into the
yeah.
whole process of being I like to say I want to be oversubscribed, right? You want to be the
Hmm.
sold-out coach. Oversubscribed is the
Yep.
way Daniel Priestley coins
Yeah.
it. We talk about being a sold-out coach. Similar concept. The concept
Yes.
is that you want to be oversubscribed at all points, meaning that there's more buyers for you than there is availability. And so once you
Yeah.
understand that psychological dynamic, then things are easier to position. So you're going to be a little bit nervous in the beginning. Then you go into your second cohort, your third cohort, your fourth cohort, and really the sky's the limit. And I think you can also tell, like, kind of my mind was spinning about eventually doing a cohort for family, where
Hmm.
dad and son, mom and daughter,
Yeah.
whatever, building. I'm getting a lot of calls from people that want to help their kids build legacy. So I can kind of see what your
Mm.
your your other cohort guy, Jeremy,
Yeah.
was
Yeah.
doing as a very viable. So I think that's also the important part is when you're in a group, you can like learn from others and you can take things that you like. So whenever I join different cohorts or masterminds, you're always networking too. So there's a lot of value that like if you are intentional, you'll get more value than just going through and learning all of John stuff, which is
100%.
extremely like I learned a skill that I can use over and over and over again, right? And make me hundreds and hundreds of thousands of dollars over time. So for me, that was a no-brainer investment because I already knew I would implement, right? And
Yeah.
maybe I'm not the best at implementing. You can bring in support team, you can get help, and it's really easy to do. So I would,
Well, I just want to encourage you. I think it's actually, I know I've heard it for this from many people before. It's actually encouraging to hear you say, like, well, I'm not the best at implementing, but I implemented and it worked, right? Because, like, that's the thing is ideally, we want a system that takes account for the fact that it doesn't have to be perfect, right? Like, it's just to have that first group. So, do you know yet when your next group's going to start?
yeah, we're selecting the date now. We
Okay.
could have done it easier. I've been, fortunately, I've been staying very oversubscribed, but
Yeah.
I tell my marketing guy, I'm like, look, we need to like I have a part-time, I call him like a CMO marketing guy that I've worked with for 12 years. So I had him participate in the cohort. I actually paid him a little
Great.
bit of revenue because one, it's I
Yeah.
think good. It's a nice gesture. He can make more money and encourage him to do some of the work that I didn't want to do necessarily. So, but yeah, the next cohort we do, we'll probably do 7 to 10 people, maybe,
Great.
and then after that, we'd probably build it up to 14. And I was actually in a cohort, and the guy had 140 people in it. And I'm like, wait a second, you got 140 people to pay. I think his cohort was $1,400. That's a lot of money for a cohort. It was like a 7 or 8
Yeah.
week cohort.
Yeah. I've been in those programs too. Was it a good experience?
Um, It, yeah, I think it was, and it was,
It can
it
be.
was
I'm
an
not saying large
it,
cohorts have to be bad experience. They just have to.
right.
It's just you have to be really thoughtful about the
Right.
delivery.
Like I would rather for me personally, I'd rather like take people into an intimate cohort. So like
Hmm.
I would say like 10 to 15 people is the max I would
Yeah,
ever do. I would just
yeah. I
raise
maxed mine at 12. Yeah,
yeah, I would raise the price. I did get a lot of value out of this cohort. And it was another thing I thought I could get an ROI on. So it was for newsletters, and I'm
mm,
scaling my newsletter. Now
great.
I've grew to 16,000 people.
That's
So
amazing.
yeah, I think like if you're a lifetime learner, like I am, and like an implementer, then you should like find smart people, join their groups, learn from them, and then get your black belt in that particular. Like I'm not a black belt. I'm probably a purple belt right now in cohort, but I want to become a
That's
black
good.
belt in cohort, right? And then that can become a hopefully a seven-figure yearly revenue over time. And I don't need it to be overnight, but I could just do the math and I can go, okay, yeah,
Yeah,
and and if you want to, replace a job and start your cohort, I think this is a very viable model to that you can build it up to 8, 10, $12,000 a month in a systematic way. So I also think like, if I was 100% focused on just cohorts, like you could
yeah.
just like I could make a living easily just doing cohorts. But
I do. Yeah,
yeah, I'm multi-dimensional. I like doing a lot of things but it's definitely it's definitely the place to be. Um,
that's cool.
and even the people in the newsletter run it as a cohort. So everything is really a cohort, meaning um, if
What do
you
you mean
look at
by
the
that?
well, if you look at the better business models, it's group coaching now. People want to be in a community. They don't want to take some digital
Yeah,
course. They want to be in a community. So if we already know that's where people want to be, and you solved whatever your program is about, you solve a problem, right? And the problem is for me was I'm stuck in a W-2 job. I know there's something better out there. I don't know anything about financing. I don't know how to analyze a franchise or business, and I solve
yeah.
that problem for people. So if you can solve those types of problems, then you can be very successful. And there's cohorts for group fitness programs and stuff and diet. I mean, and pretty much
Yeah,
anything.
well, I no, I mean honestly, I was just looking at just today. I was reading an article from Ryan Levesque that was kind of breaking down some new data from Anthropic, who owns Claude. And they were breaking down just like they commissioned a research study on like basically all the areas where AI could take over a market and like do something versus where they are currently actually doing it. In other words, there's a big gap of what's possible today with AI versus what people are actually doing with AI. The reason why I bring that up is because I mean he made the case that like what's really cool at the fringe of this, even the research study from Claude, is that every market had this sort of like final top 10 or top 5 to 10% that AI can't touch. And in this case, this is like that human element. A lot of this is like the premium programs of saying like, no, I'm not gonna pay $47 for your video course on how to do a thing that I could just ask ChatGPT to do for me, right? But I am gonna pay a couple $1,000s to go through a program with you where I get placed with peers who have similar goals, and I have a guy that's guiding me through implementing a framework, right? And so generally, I think the whole market is going this way, where there's this sort of top 10% of the market that is a combination of done for you or done with you. But then the rest of the market, which is like sort of like DIY, it's like the reality is now everything's free or cheap. You might buy a book, but you're not gonna spend $150 on a course that you're gonna have to sit down and watch and do yourself. Because you can find those videos on YouTube probably, or you can just ask ChatGPT. Um, so I
And
think it's I
people
think
pay,
it's a big
yeah,
shift.
yeah, I
Mhm.
believe in that. People are paying for transformation. So
Yeah,
my outcome going through your program was that I would become a sold out coach, and I did become a sold out coach, just like you said I would. So that's why I'm here today, like, because I'm not gonna like, you know, if I had a bad experience, obviously I wouldn't be here, but I can honestly
that's
say
true. Yeah,
that like if you just follow the system
yeah,
and you have a program that people would be interested in, then you probably have a viable product for group coaching. And I'm
that's
not
great.
maybe the best coach in the beginning. My coaching skills will get better and my leadership skills will get better.
Yeah.
And these are all skills I need anyways, right? So this is all learning something that I needed to better myself. And why not get paid to do it? So it's like a
That's
perfect
great.
match.
Yeah, I mentioned book just as a side right now, and I know you actually, I think you already published one book and you're working on another one. Is that right?
I actually published two books since I talked to you
You published
last.
two books. Okay, yeah.
So
Okay,
the
great. Yep.
first one, Paycheck to Freedom. A guy named
Awesome.
Robert Kiyosaki wrote the forward, Rich Dad Poor Dad. I
Wow.
wrote it with Tom Wheelwright. Uh, and then this is
Well
my
done.
most recent book here. Um, it's called How to Get SBA Financing to Buy Your First Business. And so I don't really care about selling thousands of copy. What I care about
Yeah.
is a lead magnet. So uh, we want people in our ecosystems, right? And so when you're thinking about group coaching programs, I think kind of the way I look at everything is an ecosystem. So my ecosystem now is getting more people that read my newsletters, getting more people that watch my YouTube videos, getting more people that come to my virtual events, getting more people that know, like, and trust me, that when I say, hey, I'm having another group coaching program, now I have a warm audience. And what are they going to do? It's going to make me sell out my next cohort easier and easier and
Yeah.
easier. So, like, if you just follow that ecosystem, I think you'll be extremely successful in whatever venture you do, as long as you're just moving the needle each day, right? And like, that's the
Yeah.
real secret of it. Like, the consistency of your messaging, and then, people will find you. And that's what I've done over and over and over again. And I
This is
will
great.
continue to do that. So I don't know what the next
Yeah.
evolution of my cohort is, but I'm excited.
That's exciting. Well, thank you, Bo. I appreciate you jumping on here to just share a little bit about the story, and then kind of break down how you did it and kind of what's next for you. I'm curious, what other kind of like, I guess, closing words of encouragement would you have for someone who, I mean, let's assume we're talking to somebody who's kind of on the fence, but they're thinking about, I don't know. I mean, should I do group coaching? I kind of, I still, maybe I want to sell a course. Maybe I think, maybe I just need to do one-on-one coaching or consulting or my business. I'm just thinking about all the objections I hear. People like my thing is thing it has to be one-on-one or I don't know how to, a group with just 3 or 5 people, that sounds small. Like, I don't know, just there's people who are on the fence and there's all these things that they're thinking about. And you were in that situation once where you weren't sure about group coaching. So I'm curious, what would you say to someone who's not sure if they want to go down the path of group coaching or not, if they're considering that as a business model?
Yeah, I mean, if you have a viable service that you offer that people are interested in, I would say you're probably could be a very good candidate to do group coaching. And when I a lot of the people in I'll just tell this really quickly. A lot of people in franchise consulting, they struggle because of lead generation. When I tell people people pay me to do the same thing, they're like, "How do you do that?" It's like, just follow John's program. Just,
Yeah,
I want to be a sold out coach and just follow the program, right? And like, because what you don't realize out there is that we all have our unique abilities, and I think you have to celebrate that we all have like experiences we can share, and people will pay to learn from you because you probably know a lot more in your particular area than most people do. And that's what I've figured out through going through the program. It's like, yeah, I could talk for hours. I had to cut myself off for those 90-minute sessions every Wednesday
yeah,
we were doing for the cohort. So I would strongly encourage you to look into it, but you at the same regard, certain people are not action takers. So like you have to like trigger yourself to like be like, I'm going to do every assignment because it's fairly easy, like especially with AI now, as you're meeting each week in John's cohort, right? And then you're going to set your target date for your launch and you're going to actually do it. If you do that, you will be successful. You will be a little nervous that you're not going to do it, but if you just follow through and keep on doing it, you will ultimately be successful. And just think about how that extra money and time freedom eventually will really help you. So like when I see people that are like stuck in a W-2 and they want to get out of corporate and they want to get into a franchise. Well, what's holding you back? Don't let the golden handcuffs hold you back.
yeah.
Build something. And this is a great business model because you could be traveling around the world and still run the cohort. You don't have to go
Oh
into
yeah,
a,
I moved to Puerto Rico since last we talked, Bo. So
oh,
yeah, I'm in
you're
Puerto Rico
there.
now. Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah,
You needed the tax benefits. So I guess ultimately, like if you are an action taker and you can follow a simple system, then you should do this. If you have a viable coaching program and something that somebody would want to learn from, like, yes, 100% do it. Like, if you're a tire kicker, then probably don't do it. Like, but if
yeah,
you're ambitious, this is a great thing for you to learn. And I can guarantee you two things. One, if you implement, you will be successful with it. And two, you're going to meet a lot of great people, and you never know. all these things, John's group and other groups I've been involved, I meet more people that I can partner with, I can do things with. I get invited now to talk and like here, whatever. All these
Yeah.
opportunities, somebody could be watching this and go, "Oh, I'm interested in buying a franchise. I'm going to call Bo because I heard him speak on
Yeah.
John's segment, right?" Like so I think just getting out there and not being unsure of yourself is really it's all in the mind and just like that's the biggest thing that holds people back. So like don't let your mind like, oh, I don't know if I can be successful as this.
Yeah.
Because if you do it, you'll probably be successful. You just got to keep doing it.
That's so good. Bo, this has been fantastic and super useful. Thank you for taking the time to do this. If somebody wants to learn more about your good work, I mean, obviously you shared earlier, they can go to businessownershiplaunch.com, but is there anywhere else you want to share in terms of a resource or if people want to learn more from you? You mentioned you've
Um,
got books, right?
books, YouTube channels, get on my ecosystem, whatever my yeah, biz owner dot news takes you to my newsletter. Biz owner
Okay.
dot news takes you
Love
to
it.
my newsletter. You could be the 16,254 subscribers. So I'm trying to grow that list to 50,000, right? And so it's all, and I started from zero, right? And so like that's
Yeah.
the thing, and that's a beautiful thing. Like you keep doing this every day and showing up, and you will be successful. So that's good.
Amazing. All right. Well, thank you, Bo. I appreciate you. Keep up the good work. We'll talk soon.
Thank you.